This is the Build Wealth Canada podcast with Cornell Schreiber, session number 6.
Welcome to the Build Wealth Canada podcast, where it's all about becoming debt-free, accelerating your wealth, and taking control of your money. Now, here's your host, Cornell Schreiber.
Hey, it's Cornell here, and welcome to the Build Wealth Canada podcast. Now, I'm really excited today because we actually have a very special guest who is an expert on earning money on the side with freelancing. Now, why should you even consider freelancing as a way to earn money on the side? Well, to start, it's something that you can basically start doing immediately to boost your income. You don't actually have to spend money and lots of time building your own product. I mean, that can take months, half a year. Sometimes people even spend years building their own product, building a prototype, spending all the money in a process. It's something that can be pretty lengthy. And even after you do all that, there really is never a guarantee that it's going to succeed. And so with freelancing, it's completely different. It's something where you can just discover what sort of skills you currently have that are marketable and actually using them to earn an income very, very quickly. And then, of course, once you have that income, well, you can use that to get out of debt quicker, pay off your mortgage, invest, or even take that dream vacation that you always wanted to do, as it's just extra income that you now have to spend however you please. Now, the other big advantage of freelancing is that it's something you can do on the side while having a full-time job. And now, if you eventually do want to freelance full-time, that's something that you can work towards. So you can start off slow, you can start off just kind of doing it as a hobby on your own time. And then eventually, as you get some traction, as you learn how it's done, you learn how to market yourself effectively, eventually it can lead into you working for yourself and basically being your own boss. And the third big reason why I think you should be interested in freelancing is that basically the income potential is nearly limitless. So you don't have to hope that you'll get a raise this year from your current job or hope to land that job where there's a slightly higher salary. Basically, as a freelancer, you get to set your own rates and you can really charge whatever it is you want, whatever the market can bear. And really, you also have the option to only take on clients that you actually want to work with. So no more getting a project that you have to do because your boss told you to. As a freelancer, if you do it right, you can actually pick and choose which clients, which projects you want to work with. So my guest today is freelancing expert Matt Inglot. Now, Matt actually started off as a freelancer back in university, and he was basically building websites for companies to earn money on the side. And basically since then, he's turned his freelancing into a high-end web design company called Tilted Pixel. And that's basically given him the freedom to travel whenever he wants, where he wants. He also earns a sizable income with the company. And basically, he gets to enjoy the freedom of being his own boss, setting his own rates, only taking on projects he actually wants to, and really spending his time doing whatever he wants to do as opposed to what he's told to do by his boss. So basically, after achieving this success, what Matt did is he actually launched a new website called Freelance Transformation. And here he actually shares his experience and teaches new and existing freelancers how to grow their income, how to make it so that they only have to work with clients and on projects that they actually want to work on, and basically how to achieve what I call cubicle freedom of basically being your own boss. So without further ado, here is the interview I had with Matt Inglot. All right, I'm here with Matt Inglot. Matt, how's it going?
Hey, Cornell. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I just wanted to really start by really hearing your story, really how you started off. And I mean, it seems like you've got a pretty good gig going on. I mean, you started freelancing just basically on the side while being in university, and then now you're at that point where you're basically have your own high-end web design company, and you get to basically travel as much as you want whenever you want, and you get to be your own boss, and financially you're doing really well too. So it'll be interesting to hear kind of the journey that you went through, and I think a lot of us could learn from it and see if freelancing is something that maybe we should consider.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the business has definitely come a long way. It's actually been 9 years in September that I've been at this, so I do have kind of a high-end website development company now. But when I started, it was just me, and it was me in my second year of university, living in student housing in this like moldy basement room, eating like craft dinner and doing this typical student stuff. And here I was also building websites for people on the side. And I actually got started primarily because I needed to pay for rent, for tuition, and so on. And I had lost a really amazing part-time job working at a virtual reality startup because the startup hadn't been doing so well, I guess, and they had to lay a lot of people off. So suddenly I was on my own and kind of had to provide for myself. And I did have some website development abilities, and I had built some websites in the past. So I did start building websites for people, and I was basically meeting clients at Starbucks and just coding the sites in my little basement room. And basically to get clients when I started, and this is still actually very effective, I just started networking. I would go to any event that would have the type of people that are likely to either buy websites or know someone that needs a website. I basically my goal is to make sure that anyone that I talk to ultimately ended up knowing that I build websites. And sure enough, once in a while, I'd actually get a bite, and as a result, suddenly I had a client. When I started off, I was doing most things myself, including some of a graphic design, which is wild because I'm not really a graphic designer, but at that point, well, my first website was $300, put it that way, whereas right now with Tilted Pixel, our minimum website price is $10,000, and they go up from there. So obviously the level of quality and the time involvement has changed as the quality has increased and the company has progressed. So going from just working in a basement room to what I have now, basically I kept getting clients. I had a couple of big breakthroughs where I managed to get bigger contracts. Again, that was just persistence and allowing myself to get into talking to enough people, getting into enough conversations that eventually opportunity kind of found its way to me. And as a result of these kind of breakthrough contracts, I was able to start earning some better money that I could actually live off of as a student. And eventually I kind of realized, well, hey, this could actually be a viable business. So while I was still in university, I actually did end up renting an office space, which we don't have an office anymore. And I've got quite a bit of things to say about having an office, whether you should have it or not. But I did get an office space because in my mind, having an office kind of equated to success and having a real business. And along with that office, I got my first full-time employee, which was kind of a weird situation because I was basically going to class every day and partying and being kind of the typical student. And at the same time, I was professionally running my company. I was showing up to the office every day. I had someone to manage, soon a couple people to manage. I had more and more clients. I had client meetings. I was living this kind of dual life, which got pretty crazy. And I ended up actually ultimately switching my university to part-time just to kind of get through it. But from that office, I was able to keep building things up, keep taking on higher and higher level clients. And I kind of went through this kind of, I guess, dip where I guess sales were going up, but profitability wasn't really. And at the same time, I was starting to work some really crazy hours. Like a 12-hour workday would have been a short day for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it got the way I like to put it, especially for the Canadians listening to this, is it'd be winter and I'd be waking up at 5 a.m. By 5:30, I was on the road, and every day around 5:30, I would roll through to Tim Hortons and I'd order my extra large coffee with milk and my everything bagel with herb and garlic cream cheese. That was the breakfast of champions for me.
Yeah.
So don't try this at home. and I would be pulling up to the office. And the thing about winter, of course, is it's still dark outside. The roads aren't really shoveled at that point. I'd be first one in. And it really started to get to me because I was working hard. I wasn't making the kind of money I feel I should have been making for the hours I was working. And I just kind of felt stuck. So I started really trying to dissect down, well, what the heck am I, what am I missing here? How are other people doing this successfully, and why am I not kind of reaching the standards I expect, even though we're doing good work, and we do have clients. So I kind of learned a lot of lessons the hard way and completely ended up restructuring my business. So like I said, we no longer have an office space at all. And that was kind of one of the big key things I changed, and that was several years ago, and it was a really scary time. But it got rid of the overhead of having an office, but it also got rid of the stress of having to commute to work, and just having to, I guess, being pressured to try to hire everyone here in Waterloo and just kind of try to build this very traditional brick-and-mortar company when we are in the age of the internet and remote work and some of the amazing things technology does for us. And so I did that. I made a number of changes, which, of course, we can talk about. And where we are today is we are a fully virtual business. I have a small team that works for me. And it's kind of a hybrid because on the one hand, I do have a team of people. It's no longer me building the websites. On the other hand, I do work from home, and if I want, I can even work in my pajamas. So in some ways, I kind of almost kind of turned around and said, well, some of the older things were working better. And now the business is doing well, of course. And here we are. So that's my sort of short version.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I would say inspiring too, because I mean, especially when you first started, I mean, you were in university and you basically started doing all this, and I think a common conception is that, well, I'm going to university so I can learn things so that I can then have the skills to be able to do some kind of work that I can then sell, right? But in your case, you kind of said, well, no, I'm still in university. I guess, did you just learn how to do all that yourself and then just started selling your services? How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, well, when it comes to running your own business or just offering your services for hire as a freelancer, university is kind of interesting. Nothing that I learned in university was directly applicable to building websites or even, I guess, running a website development company. I learned everything on my own, and that is the beauty of the internet and the world that we live in today, is if you want to pick up a skill, you shouldn't be waiting for someone else to teach you that skill, or you shouldn't be waiting to, get your degree or so on. Obviously, there's certain things like becoming a doctor or a lawyer where that's,
yeah.
I mean, you go to school.
Yeah.
But for especially anything technology related, you can learn this stuff yourself online now, and university actually isn't going to teach it to you. So on the one hand, university wasn't really necessary to run my website development company, and it really involves this whole other set of knowledge that university wasn't going to teach me. And that's okay. It's not really what university does. That being said, there were some positive things from having go to university in the first place, and a big one was actually the connections and networking that I got out of that. That was very valuable. The university I went to, Wilfrid Laurier University, they were actually incredibly supportive of my efforts to run my own business. They have a whole entrepreneurship center, which helped me out a lot. Also, their faculty in general kind of helped me make my schedule work in this kind of unusual arrangement. But I got to meet a lot of interesting people and have a lot of opportunities that they're not impossible outside of university by any stretch, but I think that was the key value from university. And the other thing university did is it gave kind of a foundational knowledge of different, I took business, so a lot of different business subjects. But when you get into how to build a website or how to maintain your books in QuickBooks or anything like that, university wasn't really, that's not what university was teaching. So I don't feel that waiting to graduate would have given me additional knowledge to actually run the business. It's something more that I had to learn from other resources and also from actually having the experience of running the business.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I mean, I can see that sort of it can really be something that holds people back, or they think, okay, well, I don't really have any skills that I could freelance, and well, maybe I should take this whole 4-year program to learn this, or take all these spend years and years in a school somewhere learning this before I finally am able to try to have something on the side and work for myself and try to do some freelancing. Whereas it's good to hear from your end that, well, actually you don't need to wait for that. It's almost like procrastination a bit, right? Instead, it's look, if you are passionate about something, if you enjoy it, and you think you might have some talent there, or you want to try to discover your talent, just go and just learn it and learn it yourself. Use the internet. There's all these resources available now, and just try to build something. No, don't need to wait and study for years and years. Like you said, if you're a lawyer, you want to be a lawyer or a surgeon, obviously that's a different that's a different thing. But in terms of I like the entrepreneurial route for sure. I can see that. I mean, personally, I think that's a really, really good thing to keep in mind for sure. That you just have to take action and sort of do some self-directed learning, right? Yeah,
absolutely. That's really the key today, especially about picking up like very specific skills, whether that is website development or whether that's something completely different like speaking or editing or writing, graphic design, whatever it may be. There's many ways to learn it, and a big key is to actually go and do it and build up the experience for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that you mentioned that was pretty interesting, I thought, was, well, you said in the beginning you were even doing the graphic design yourself, and then you kind of realized, well, this isn't something I should be doing. I mean, as somebody that's just starting out and wants to maybe give this freelancing thing a shot, how should you decide what you should actually be doing yourself versus what you should be outsourcing? Because obviously, you don't want to be doing every single little thing when someone else can do it, 8 times as fast for a fraction of the cost. How do you decide what's going to be your specialty basically versus what you're going to outsource?
Sure, absolutely. Well, definitely start with what you're actually good at. If there's something you should be doing, it should be the skill sets that you have, and focus on those. Obviously, things like in my case, I wasn't good at graphic design, so I found other people to do the graphic design. And later, I also found people to do things that I was good at, but I got some extra leverage and earning power and could do more work if I also hired other people to do some of that work as well. But with all that said, I really want to caution that finding other people to do the work for you and trying to kind of build this machine and figure out kind of, you get into things like outsourcing or hiring others or whatever it may be, that's jumping the gun if you don't have a business yet. Start by finding some clients and doing things that you're able to do, and then start worrying about, well, what parts of the operation should I not be doing, or where do I need help? Because otherwise, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse. You haven't actually gotten any clients yet, and already you're trying to create this big structure where pretty much as soon as a plan goes into action, you kind of have to rework it. So whatever business you devise in your head, it's immediately going to become different as soon as you start doing it. So you kind of need that market feedback to actually attract some clients, see if you can even find clients for what you're offering, and see what it is that they truly want from you before you start worrying about how you're actually, going to optimize this business.
Yeah, so that you're not basically just kind of playing business, essentially. You're actually out there getting the clients, and basically making sure that what you're trying to sell is actually something that somebody wants to buy. as opposed to just making all these plans and then they all get changed anyway the moment you actually go and you try to sell your service.
Yeah, exactly. Playing business, as you said, it's always a danger. And what I think you mean by that really is it's doing things that kind of seem important, make you feel like, you're running a business, but aren't actually the next one or two big actions you need to be taking in order to actually move your business forward. So if you don't have clients, then really you should be trying to get clients, and you should be figuring out how that works. And again, not worrying about who you're going to hire, how that operation's going to look a year from now. I did a lot of that as well, where there were times where I got myself into that trap where I was also doing things that seemed important in theory for my business or kind of planning really far ahead, but it was also kind of almost like another form of procrastination as well, because really what I should have been doing is maybe finding more clients or figuring out how to kind of rework my business model, rework the pricing structure, instead of worrying about optimization.
It's like you're playing CEO, but then you're not really making any sales. So
yeah.
So what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah. It sounds cool, but at the end of the day, you still have no money, and and it's just taking up a lot of your time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, just kind of moving on. I mean, for somebody that is considering freelancing or maybe has thought of it a little bit but isn't sure if that's something they should even try, what would you say to that kind of person? Why should someone even consider freelancing in the first place?
Why they should consider freelancing? Well, there's a couple good reasons for it. One, the obvious one is because you want to earn some money on the side, because you have a skill that you're good at, and maybe there's some extra cash you want to save up. The other thing is maybe you're just kind of tired of your job, and maybe you want to go out on your own. You want to do your own thing, perhaps because you can earn more money doing it up by yourself, or you want the certain lifestyle that's possible to achieve via freelancing that maybe is not as easy to achieve if you have a 9-to-5 job commitment. So to give you a couple examples for me, I don't really plan on really ever going back into the corporate world and getting kind of a cubicle job. I think I've become a little bit spoiled and used to my freedom. So one of the kind of manifestations of that freedom, first of all, is I can choose to take vacation when I want it, and I can choose to take it for as long as I want, as long as I can manage the business around that. So 2 years ago, roughly, I went on an amazing kind of life-changing trip for 2 months to Poland, where I'm originally from, and that's actually where I proposed to my girlfriend at the time. She had come with me. And it was simply amazing. And because of the way I had set up my business at that point, I was actually able to check email once a week, and that was the sum of my workload. Which
that's amazing for 2 months.
for 2 months, exactly.
Yeah, good luck doing that at a typical corporate job, right?
Exactly. Can you imagine going to your boss and saying, I'm going to peace out for 2 months? Keep my chair warm for me. It's not gonna.
I know my vacation is 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but how about if we do 8?
Exactly.
I don't think that's gonna go over very well, and might postpone a promotion as well just by you asking that question.
Yeah, and that's really the other thing too, is even if you don't get fired, maybe that might kind of change your career path and prospects within the company, and then. And to give you another example, last year we went on a 6-week trip to Croatia. 4 weeks to Croatia, 2 weeks to Poland. Croatia has a lot of amazing rock climbing. Now, I wasn't able to do the whole check email once a week there. That would have taken some extra planning, and this was actually a very spontaneous trip. What I wanted to experiment with there instead was I wanted to just enjoy the freedom of living somewhere else for a change, just kind of get a change of scenery. And because of a time zone difference, what happened is my fiance and I, we were able to get up every morning, and we'd spend the first half of a day rock climbing. There's gorgeous seaside cliffs to climb in Croatia. It is just phenomenal. And we would do that, and then we'd get back to the apartment about 3 or 4 p.m., shower, eat quickly, and then we'd start working right around the time that it's like 10 or 11 Eastern time. So most clients didn't even know that we weren't, in Ontario at that point, because it just never came up. Some of them I just mentioned for fun, because I have that kind of relationship with them. But really, it was business as usual, and yet at the same time, I was across the ocean, completely different country, and managed to make it work. And for that time, of course, I cut down my work schedule, so I wasn't working 8 hours. I was working 5 or 6 hours a day, and just kind of choosing to enjoy that summer that way. So all of this is to say that a huge benefit of freelancing is just the change in lifestyle that it can bestow upon you. So if you're maybe feeling burnt out, having to work in, kind of typical cubicle nation, and you're thinking, well, gee, I want to do my own thing, and I might be happier doing it my way, maybe working from home, maybe, I don't have kids, but, many people start families, and that's also where freelancing can be extremely advantageous, because you can stay home and watch your kid grow up instead of having to, go to the office every day.
Exactly.
So I saw, the kind of very simple need might be you want to earn money on the side, but the more deeper need might be, well, maybe you actually want to quit your job and switch to freelancing, and then actually build out a very different lifestyle around that.
Yeah, and what sounds really appealing is that if you aren't sure, you don't have to go full on freelancing. You don't have to quit your job and then go full blown freelancing the next day. It's something you can do on the side in your spare time as a hobby on the weekends if you want. And if you're freelancing, doing a certain service, it should be obviously something that you like doing, right? So it shouldn't be like a dreadful thing that you don't want to work on the weekend. And then I guess you could see then, well, is this something that I would like to do and try to push further so that I can do this full time down the road?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it. You don't, for most of the kind of things we think about when we think freelancing, you don't really need any overhead. You don't need some sort of complex business. You don't need employees. You can just go and you can start doing it. And that's the beauty of it. And you can see firsthand if this is something that maybe you'd like doing.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, I guess, if you're not really sure what kind of freelancing you'd like to do, you can just try something out and see. And it's pretty risk-free. It's not like you have to, build some prototype product and spend, thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars trying, like you hear on like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, right? And then, a year later after building the product, it turns out that no one wants to buy it. In this case, you're just... You can basically the next day, you can decide to be a freelancer and the next day start selling your services.
Yeah, exactly. You're not touching your nest egg to invest in this at all. I was watching The Simpsons the other day, and there's an episode where Ned Flanders opens I think it's called the Leftorium.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a left-handed store. Like everything they sell is for left-handed people. And he quits his job at the pharmaceutical industry, and they're basically parodying the kind of typical start out on your own person where, you kind of you literally bet the house on this new business that maybe you don't have any business experience even running. Clearly, in Simpsons, Ned had no idea how to promote his store, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling the episode a little bit for you, but if you haven't seen it at this point, go watch it. Actually, it's a great.
It's a classic episode.
It is. But the key thing about that episode is at one point Ned literally ends up living in his car as a result of the business not doing as well as he'd expected.
Right.
In the case of just freelancing, there's no financial outlay whatsoever or no risk. You don't have to put anything on the line. You can just go and you can start offering your services.
Yeah, so if someone wants to start off, should they even be building a website at that point? Or would you even say don't even bother kind of doing that, just go and try to just speak to people like what you were doing, where you're going out there, you're networking, and basically eventually you get a client, and then you see how that works out.
So this might be really weird to hear from a web developer, but when you're starting out, yeah, you absolutely don't need a website. You don't need anything other than your own smiling self, to be honest, because you can find clients in one of two ways. You can find clients in person and do the whole local freelancing thing that's existed since before the age of the internet, where you just go to wherever your client target market is and you talk to them and say, hey, this is what I do. Can I help you? This might mean actually cold calling some businesses or visiting them. It might mean going to networking events. I mean, it might mean posting a flyer at your local church, wherever it is that your target market is. And then the other way to acquire clients, of course, is online. So there's Craigslist, there's Kijiji. Those are really great for odd jobs. And if you're first starting out and you just kind of want to bite, just try something, then those are great. And then there's other sites like Elance and Odesk, and those are sites that maybe there shouldn't be your long-term marketing plan, because the people on those sites are really looking for a deal and aren't going to pay you the type of premium pricing that hopefully one day you'll be charging, and what my other business, Freelance Transformation, is all about. But it's a good way to dip your toe in the water and take on some clients relatively easily and do it without leaving your house.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because I can see that being something that holds some people back, or they say, well, I would like to have some business on the side. I'd like to do some freelancing. Well, I guess I have to build a website. Well, I don't know how to build a website. And then they spend 4 or 6 months trying to figure out how to build a website, and they still haven't made a sale. They still don't have any clients, nothing like that. Whereas they could have just taken your approach and just go out there and just try and talk to people and try these different methods. And you can post that you're available to work even for free, right? Like you said, on Kijiji, for example, right? And Craigslist and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you mentioned with the building of a website, that is playing business. I can't start my business yet because the website template's not done, or I got to learn how to use WordPress, or even, I got to get my business cards designed, and I got to get my business cards printed. In order to do that, wow, now I need a logo design, so now I got to go get a logo. And it's all procrastination, absolutely. Yeah. You don't need any of those things. Just go out there, do it under your own name, and get actual paying work.
Yeah, as opposed to 6 months later, okay, you finally have a website, you have business cards, you still have no clients, and by this time you've probably lost some steam, because technically you've been working hard on this thing for 6 months, and you still don't have a single dollar basically being generated.
Yeah, exactly. I managed to get website work even before my company was officially founded or existed, and I just kind of built off that. And then I got the logo, and the logo, by the way, which we still actually use today, a friend of mine designed it for me, and I paid him back in beer. It wasn't some crazy, I didn't go to a marketing agency. We didn't spend, 6 months trying to envision my brand. I just got something done because I knew later I could change it, and it turned out to be an awesome logo, so I don't want to change it, but I mean, almost anything would have been good enough at that point anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So what about those listeners that think, okay, well, I don't know if I have any sort of skills that I could use, that I could sell basically to be a freelancer? I could see that being a common sort of roadblock for people, is I don't really know anything. I can't think of anything that I can do to generate money on the side. What would you say to those listeners?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think for a lot of people, you got to look harder. Because you can do almost anything as a freelancer, anything that someone would pay money for people to do. So yeah, there's kind of the obvious things you think of when you think freelancing. You think of creative services, for example, like graphic design, programming, copywriting, search engine optimization, things like that. Those are kind of obvious. but it can actually be a whole lot of other things. For example, there's a big market for virtual assistants. So that's basically doing administrative work remotely. That might be bookkeeping, that might be scheduling, that might be managing someone's emails, that might even be some form of project management. And these are all the type of skills that you may have picked up in your current job or previously in your career. That you can then kind of turn around and say, okay, I'm a virtual assistant, or, I'm virtual assistant offering these specific services, and you can kind of niche it down a lot further instead of being a jack of all trades. But then it gets even more interesting. There are good websites you can go online to kind of get an idea of what people are offering, and the one that's kind of really interesting is Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Because people are offering jobs for $5. Now, I'm not saying you should post your job on Fiverr, because that's a very different business model, and the people I think who make any sort of money on it do it because they've actually kind of really assembly lined their work, and that's really actually advanced. But it's a really cool site for getting ideas, and when you go on there, you find, for example, some people are just offering to record their voice for something, so like an intro for a podcast or for your voicemail or your company's ad, whatever it may be. So if you just kind of have kind of a nice radio voice, your voice might be your talent. There's people on there that offer like editing services for people's ebooks. There's people that offer puppet videos and just all sorts of bizarre things. And then if you go even further into the freelance model, there's people that offer business consulting, marketing consulting, but then there's people that offer image consulting. So there's people that'll actually help executives dress properly or help people on TV dress properly. And there's even dating coaches. And that's a huge market as well. So there's people that teach other people just basically how to interact with the opposite sex a little bit better and kind of reach their dating goals. So there's just such a huge variety of skills out there. I think chances are you do have something unique that you might already be able to offer. But the other thing with the internet, which we talked about before, is it's never been easier to learn. Whatever it may be that interests you. For example, if you want to learn programming, it's never been easier to learn programming. Whether you want to learn HTML or whether you want to learn some more sophisticated languages, all of that information is online. It's free. If you want to learn video editing, if you want to learn graphic design, anything technical is very easy to learn, but also non-technical things. Like if you... I'm really into Halloween makeup, like really going all out for Halloween, and I have various different zombie things I do. It's kind of fun, and for me it's just a hobby, but there's people on YouTube that teach people how to like do like professional movie makeup and things like that. So, maybe there's an idea there. There's cake decorating. Like the list goes on and on. So either chances are you already have a skill that's marketable, and if you don't, give yourself 6 months and suddenly you do have a skill that's marketable.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Like with the makeup, I mean, now we're getting into there's freelancing, but then also sort of the more passive income. But like with the Halloween, the makeup example, I mean, you could put those videos on YouTube. You could monetize those by putting ads on there, which is fairly YouTube makes it very easy. You can make your own sort of video products, more premium products, teaching people how to do those types of things. And then maybe you want to offer some coaching as well. So in your local city, for example, maybe you want to work as a freelancer, with the makeup there, for instance. So yeah, there's so many different ways, right? You just have to. I guess the key is just finding what you actually really enjoy doing and what you are okay getting very, very good at, and then just really, going full out and trying those different things.
Yeah, exactly. And making sure it's something that there's a market for it and that you can actually reach your market. Just because it's something that you enjoy doing doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to find the customers for it, or maybe there are customers for it, but for whatever reason, maybe you're not the right person to reach that market. I have tons of hobbies where I suppose I could take the next steps and, freelance if I ever wanted to get away from the computer and so on. But some of them would be more marketable than others.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a key of, I guess, what are all the things that you're passionate about that you could see yourself getting really good at or already good at? And then once you have that list, well, which ones are actually the ones that are most marketable, so that you're not just spinning your wheels and barely making anything or aren't able to get clients, basically.
Absolutely. And this is where the beauty of all of this being low commitment is so important, because you can test. You can test before you make any sort of expenses or crazy commitments. You can just try it and see if it's something that you are able to get clients for and that you actually enjoy doing. And if you don't, then several months later, fine, try something else. This isn't a lifelong commitment. And if you turn out that this is just not the right move for you.
Exactly. And you can start tomorrow, just trying it out, seeing if it's for you. You don't have to, like you said before, you don't have to wait. You don't have to build a website. You don't have to go to school for 5 years. I mean, you can just, you can really get going pretty quickly and basically go through that self-discovery.
Exactly.
All right, so that is all for part 1 of this session. You can get the list of all the resources that Matt suggests if you're considering freelancing by going to the show notes at buildwealthcanada.ca/6, so just the number 6. Now, join us for part 2 of the session as Matt discusses the different ways that you can differentiate yourself from your competition if you are just getting started in freelancing, as well as the different keys to success if you're just starting out, and how to compete with low-cost providers. For example, someone in the Philippines or China that's basically willing to work for a fraction of what you're willing to work for. How can you compete with someone like that if you're freelancing in the same field? Also, Matt talks about why you should consider freelancing instead of just creating a product and trying to generate a passive income that way. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd greatly appreciate you giving the podcast a favorable review on iTunes if you use iTunes. Also, come check out buildwealthcanada.ca, where you can sign up for free to get the newest expert interviews like the one we have here today with Matt. Also, as a bonus for signing up, I'll send you my top 5 personal finance and productivity tools guide, which are basically all free tools that you can start using right away to save time managing your money, increase your productivity, and make the right financial choices when it comes to investments, paying off debt, and retirement. These are all tools that I basically use, and I think they'd be very helpful to you, and they're all free, so there's really no harm in giving them a shot. All right, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Build Wealth Canada podcast at www.buildwealthcanada.ca.